The Quit Drinking Blueprint for Women. Embrace sobriety and alcohol-free living. Overcome addiction and rediscover your health, confidence, and true self by Katherine Lowe. Introduction. Just a penny, Meg. That's all it takes to make the world stop shaking. The woman speaking leaned against a damp brick wall in a dark London alley. It was 1736, and the air smelled like coal smoke and garbage. Her friend Meg pulled a thin shawl tighter around her shoulders. She looked at the small shop across the street. A sign over the door said, "Drunk for a penny, dead drunk for 2 pence, clean straw for nothing." "I shouldn't," Meg whispered, her voice cracking. "The kids are hungry. If I spend the penny on the blue water, there's no bread for morning." "The blue water is the only thing that makes the hunger go away," the first woman said. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a tiny tin cup. "The government wants us to drink it. It's cheaper than beer. It's cheaper than milk. It's the only way to forget the fog and the cold." Meg looked at the shop again. She felt a deep, heavy weight in her chest. It was the weight of a long day of hard work and a long night of worry. She took the penny from her pocket. "Just one," she said, "just to quiet my mind." That blue water was gin. Back then, people called it Mother's Ruin. In the early 1700s, London was drowning in it. The government had made it very easy to make and sell gin because they wanted to use up extra grain. They didn't realize they were creating a trap. For the first time in history, women were drinking just as much as men. Cheap gin was everywhere. It was on every street corner. It was in the markets. It was even sold from wheelbarrows. Women used it to numb the pain of a hard life. They used it to deal with the stress of raising children in a crowded, dirty city. Society started to fall apart. People saw mothers neglecting their homes and felt a new kind of shock. This was the first time the world saw what happens when a reward becomes a requirement. The government eventually passed laws to stop the gin craze, but the damage was done. A seed was planted in the soil of history. It was the idea that when life gets too heavy for a woman, she should reach for a glass to lighten the load. The modern version of Mother's Ruin today, the alleyways of London are gone, replaced by bright grocery stores and pretty wine shops. We don't call it Mother's Ruin anymore. We call it wine o'clock. We call it mommy juice. We put funny sayings on coffee mugs and t-shirts that tell us we deserve a drink because our jobs are hard or our kids are loud. But if you are reading this, you might feel like Meg. You might feel that heavy weight in your chest. You might be realizing that the reward you give yourself every night is starting to feel more like a cage. Maybe you aren't drinking gin in a dark alley. Maybe you are standing in a beautiful kitchen with granite countertops. Maybe you have a great job, a nice car, and a family that loves you. On the outside, everything looks perfect. You are high-functioning. You get the kids to school on time. You hit your deadlines at work. You volunteer for the school bake sale. But inside, there is a secret. The secret is the brain fog that won't go away in the morning. It's the way you check the clock at 4:00 p.m., counting down the minutes until it's socially okay to open the bottle. It's the anxiety, that cold, shaking feeling of dread that hits you at 3:00 a.m. for no reason at all. You feel like you are dimming your own light just to keep going. You feel like you are wearing velvet handcuffs. They are soft, and they look pretty to everyone else, but they still keep you from being free. You are not alone. There is a quiet epidemic happening right now. Millions of women are caught in this same trap. They are told that alcohol is the only way to cope with modern life. They are told that if they stop, they will be boring, or lonely, or unable to handle the stress. This book is here to tell you that those are lies. The promise of a clear life. You might be afraid that saying goodbye to alcohol means saying goodbye to fun. You might worry that you will never be able to relax again. I want you to imagine a different version of yourself. Imagine waking up before your alarm goes off. Your head is clear, your eyes are bright. You don't have to spend the first 10 minutes of the day trying to remember exactly what you said to your husband the night before. Imagine having a difficult day at work and knowing exactly how to handle your stress without needing a chemical crutch. You feel strong. You feel steady. You are no longer reacting to life, you are leading it. Imagine your skin looking younger and your body feeling lighter. Imagine having so much extra time and money that you can finally start that project you've been putting off for years. This isn't just a dream. This is what happens when you decide to take back your power. When you stop numbing your feelings, you start living them. And while that can feel scary at first, it is the most exciting thing you will ever do. By the end of this journey, you will not just be someone who doesn't drink. You will be a woman who is fully awake. You will have the tools to fix your sleep, heal your brain, and find real joy, you will move from a life of escape to a life of purpose. While you can trust this path, you might have tried to quit before. Maybe you did dry January or tried to just have one glass. When it didn't work, you probably felt like you failed. You might think you lack willpower. I am here to tell you that willpower is not the problem. The problem is the way alcohol changes your brain. It is a chemical process, not a character flaw. This book is built on a blueprint. It combines the newest science about the female brain with the wisdom of women who have walked this path before. We aren't going to use shame or guilt. Shame is what keeps you drinking. Instead, we're going to use facts, strategy, and a little bit of history to show you the way out. We will look at how alcohol mimics the chemicals in your brain that are supposed to make you feel calm. We will learn how to rewire those paths so your brain can start making its own calm again. We will use the stories of pioneers to show that women have always been stronger than the labels society puts on them. Meet Alina to see how this works in the real world. I want you to meet Alina Rodriguez. Alina is 39 years old. She lives in Austin, Texas, in a house filled with sunlight and the sound of her two kids, Sophie and Leo, playing in the backyard. Alina is a senior project manager at a big tech firm. She is the person everyone goes to when they need something fixed. She is organized, witty, and very good at her job. But Alina has a routine. Every evening at 6:30 p.m., the shift happens. The workday is over, but the second shift of motherhood is just beginning. She has to make dinner, help with math homework, and fold the laundry. She feels a tight knot of stress in her shoulders. Alina walks to her sleek granite kitchen island. She reaches into the cabinet and pulls out a bottle of Cabernet. She pours a large glass. As she takes the first sip, she feels that knot in her shoulders start to loosen. She tells herself, I deserve this. It's my reward for a hard day. It's my off switch. But lately, the off switch is getting stuck. One glass leads to two. Two glasses lead to three. Sometimes she pours a fourth glass and hides the bottle in the back of the pantry. She doesn't want her husband, Mark, to see how fast she is drinking it. She feels like an imposter. A few weeks ago, something happened that Alina can't stop thinking about. She was standing at the stove, stirring pasta with her glass of wine nearby. Her daughter, Sophie, came up to give her a hug. Sophie wrinkled her nose and looked up at her. Mom, Sophie said, why do you always smell like grapes and medicine? Alina froze. She felt a wave of hot shame wash over her. She laughed it off and told Sophie to go wash her hands, but inside her heart was racing. That night, Alina woke up at 3:00 a.m. Her heart was pounding against her ribs. She felt a deep sense of dread, like something terrible was about to happen. She lay there in the dark, looking at the ceiling, wondering why she felt so unhappy when her life looked so good on paper. Alina believes she needs the wine to be the woman everyone expects her to be. She is terrified that if she stops, she will be a nervous wreck. She is scared she will be boring at her company's holiday parties. She is trapped by the velvet handcuffs, and she doesn't know where the key is. We are going to follow Alina as she finds that key. Her story is the story of many women. Her struggles are real, but her transformation is possible. The roadmap ahead, the journey we are about to take, is divided into steps that will help you rebuild your life from the inside out. We will start by looking at why modern life seems to demand that women drink. We will look at the history of pioneers like Elizabeth Blackwell, the first woman to become a doctor in the United States. She had to defy everyone who told her what a lady should be. Her grit will be our guide as we learn to defy the wine mom culture. Then, we will dive into the science. We will learn about the 5 pillars of neurological rewiring. You will find out exactly why you wake up at 3:00 a.m. and how to stop it. We will learn about the chemicals in your brain, like GABA and glutamate, and how to get them back in balance. We will also talk about the truth. Like the famous reporter Nellie Bly, who went undercover to expose secrets, we are going to unmask the lies alcohol tells us. We will look at why we sabotage our own success and how to build resilience so we never have to break again. You will learn how to handle social situations, the weddings, the work dinners, and the girl-s nights, without feeling like you are missing out. We will talk about social sovereignty, which is the power to be yourself in any room, no matter what is in everyone else's glass. As we move forward, we will explore the true self that has been hiding under the numbness. You will find hobbies and passions you forgot you had. We will even look at biohacks, simple things like vitamins and sleep habits that make staying sober much easier for your body. Finally, we will see how sobriety leads to a kind of confidence you have never known. You will learn to build a life that you don't feel the need to escape from. The first step, the woman in the London alley, Meg, felt she had no choice. She lived in a world that wanted her to stay numb. But you have a choice. You are living in a time where more women than ever are waking up. They are realizing that they don't need a chemical to be brave or funny or relaxed. They are discovering that the reward deficit they feel at the end of the day can be filled with real connection and true rest. This book is not about what you are giving up. It is about what you are getting back. It is about getting back your mornings. It is about getting back your health. It is about getting back your internal compass, that gut feeling that tells you who you are and what you want. You might feel nervous right now. That's okay. Alina is nervous too, but remember what Elizabeth Blackwell said. It is not easy to be a pioneer, but oh, it is fascinating. You are the pioneer of your own life. You are about to open a door that has been locked for a long time. On the other side of that door is the woman you were always meant to be. She is waiting for you, and she is more vibrant than you can imagine. Let's begin. Chapter 1: Why does modern womanhood demand? In 1847, everyone in America knew exactly what a woman was supposed to be. They were told women were fragile, soft, and meant to stay inside the home. People believed the female brain was simply not built for the hard work of science or medicine. If a woman tried to step out of that box, she was seen as strange or even dangerous to the natural order of things. Elizabeth Blackwell did not care what everyone knew to be true. She had watched a dying friend suffer and heard her say that her pain would have been easier to handle if she had been treated by a lady doctor. That one thought sparked a fire in Elizabeth that no amount of rejection could blow out. She applied to 29 different medical schools. Every single one of them sent back a letter saying no. Some told her she was too weak. Others told her that if she wanted to study medicine, she should dress up like a man and pretend to be someone else. The leaders at Geneva Medical College in New York finally received her application and didn't know what to do. They didn't want to be the ones to say yes, but they also didn't want to look mean. They decided to let the students vote on it. They told the 150 young men in the class that if even one person said no, Elizabeth would be rejected. The students thought the whole thing was a giant joke. They spent the night laughing and shouting, and when the vote came, they all yelled yes, just to see what would happen. They expected a punchline. They got Elizabeth Blackwell. When she walked into that classroom a few weeks later, the laughter stopped. The room went silent. Elizabeth wasn't a joke, she was a pioneer. She faced cold stares every day. People on the street pulled their skirts away so they wouldn't touch her. She was told she couldn't be both a lady and a doctor. Society demanded she choose one, but she refused to accept the rules of a world that wanted to keep her small. The modern demand today, the world doesn't tell women they can't be doctors. In fact, it tells us we can be anything we want. We are told we can lead companies, run marathons, raise perfect children, and keep a spotless house all at the same time. But there is a new rule that has taken the place of the old ones. This new rule says that to survive all these high expectations, you must have a drink in your hand. We see it on t-shirts that say, "Mommy's Juice." We see it in funny videos online where women pour giant glasses of wine after a long day of work. The message is everywhere. Womanhood is so hard and so stressful that alcohol is the only way to get through it. It has become the reward for finishing the second shift, that extra block of work women do at home after their day job is over. Just like in Elizabeth Blackwell's time, society has created a myth. Back then, the myth was that women were too weak for the world. Today, the myth is that women are only strong enough for the world if they use wine to numb the edges. We are told that alcohol is our off switch, our best friend, and our self-care. But just like the people who tried to keep Elizabeth out of medical school, these messages are lying to us. Alina's Tuesday morning. Alina Rodriguez sat in her glass-walled office in Austin, Texas. It was 10:00 a.m. on a Tuesday, and the fluorescent lights above her desk felt like tiny needles poking into her eyes. She was leading a high-stakes project meeting, explaining a new software rollout to a room full of engineers. On the outside, she looked like the picture of success. Her blazer was sharp, her presentation was perfect, and her voice was steady. On the inside, Alina was falling apart. Her mouth felt like it was full of cotton. Her head throbbed with a dull, heavy beat. Every time someone asked a question, she had to focus all her energy just to keep her hands from shaking. She knew exactly why she felt this way. It was the 3 glasses of Cabernet she had needed the night before to stop her brain from racing about this very meeting. She looked at her reflection in her laptop screen and felt a wave of shame. She had worked so hard for this career. She had spent years studying, staying late, and proving she was the best. Now that she was finally at the top, she was using wine to numb the very life she had built. She was trapped in what felt like a pair of velvet handcuffs. The wine felt soft and comfortable at night, like a warm hug after a battle, but by morning, those handcuffs were tight and cold. They were keeping her from being the leader she knew she could be. The lady's entrance. To understand why we feel this demand to drink, we have to look back at how we got here. For a long time, drinking was mostly a men's thing. In the 1800s, women weren't even allowed in most bars. If a woman wanted to get a drink, she often had to go through a separate ladies' entrance at the back of the building. It was hidden and shameful. Society believed that good women didn't drink, and if they did it in secret. This started to change in the 1900s. Companies realized that women were a huge group of people who weren't spending money on their products yet. They began to change their marketing. Instead of showing alcohol as something for rough men in dark bars, they started showing it as something for modern, independent women. They made the bottles look pretty. They made the drinks taste sweet. They told women that drinking was a sign of freedom and equality. By the 1990s and 2000s, this marketing went into overdrive. They created the wine mom culture. They took the very real stress of motherhood and the second shift and turned it into a reason to sell more bottles. They made it seem like every woman was in on a big, funny secret. We all hate our lives a little bit, and wine is the only thing that makes it okay. This created a powerful form of social mimicry. We started drinking because we saw our friends doing it, our favorite characters on TV doing it, and even the perfect moms at the park doing it. We didn't want to be the only ones left out of the joke. The reward deficit. There is a biological reason why this trap is so easy to fall into. Scientists call it reward deficit syndrome. Think of your brain like a battery that powers your feelings of joy and calm. When you spend your whole day taking care of everyone else, answering emails at work, folding laundry, helping with homework, and managing a household, that battery runs dry. By 6:00 p.m., your brain is searching for a quick way to recharge. Alcohol provides a massive, instant surge of feel-good chemicals like dopamine. It feels like a shortcut to relaxation. It tells your brain, the work is done, you can rest now. The problem is that this shortcut comes with a heavy price. The brain is very smart. When it gets a huge blast of chemicals from the outside, it stops making its own. Over time, your natural joy battery breaks. You stop feeling happy from a sunset, a hug, or a good book. You start needing the wine just to feel normal. This is the hidden cost of the wine mom myth. It promises us a reward for our hard work, but it actually steals our ability to enjoy our lives. We end up like Alina, sitting in an office we worked hard to earn, feeling like we are just trying to survive until the next glass. We are told we are treating ourselves, but we are actually training our brains to stay in a state of constant craving and depletion. Defying the myth, Elizabeth Blackwell didn't become a doctor by following the rules of her time. She became a doctor by realizing those rules were designed to keep her from her true potential. She had to be brave enough to be the only one in the room who didn't fit in. She had to trust her own vision of what a woman could be, even when the rest of the world told her she was wrong. Breaking free from the demand to drink requires that same kind of pioneer spirit. It means looking at the wine mom culture and seeing it for what it really is, a marketing trick that sells us a fake solution to a real problem. It means realizing that you don't need a chemical off switch to handle your life. You are already strong enough, smart enough, and capable enough to handle the stress, the boredom, and the second shift without numbing yourself. When Alina sat in that office on Tuesday morning, she made a quiet decision. She realized she didn't want to live her life through a fog anymore. She saw that the reward she gave herself every night was actually a punishment she felt every morning. She decided she was done with the velvet handcuffs. She didn't know how she was going to do it yet, and she was terrified of what her friends would think, but she knew she couldn't keep dimming her own light. The path forward. The demand for women to drink is a social pressure, not a biological requirement. You were born with an internal compass, a natural sense of who you are and what you need. Alcohol spins that compass in circles, leaving you feeling lost and unsure of yourself. When you stop listening to the noise of the world and start listening to that inner voice, you begin to see a different path. This path isn't about giving something up. It's about gaining everything back. It's about waking up with a clear head and a heart that doesn't feel heavy with secret shame. It's about being fully present for your children, your career, and most importantly, yourself. It's about rediscovering the hobbies you forgot, the energy you lost, and the woman you were before the world told you that you needed a drink to be her. Question the why. Start noticing when you feel the demand to drink. Is it because you are actually thirsty, or is it because you feel like you deserve a reward for a hard day? See the marketing. Look at alcohol ads and wine mom memes with a critical eye. Ask yourself, who is making money by telling me I'm not enough without this bottle? Find your why. Like Elizabeth Blackwell, you need a reason that is bigger than the pressure to fit in. What would your life look like if you had 100% of your energy and focus back? Identify the second shift. Acknowledge how much unpaid labor you are doing. The stress is real, but wine isn't the cure. Rest, boundaries, and support are. Imagine a life where you don't need an off switch because you actually enjoy being on. Imagine walking into a party or a high-stakes meeting with total confidence, knowing that your brain is working at its full power. Imagine the freedom of no longer needing to hide bottles or count how many glasses are left. This isn't just a dream. It is what happens when you decide to stop living by someone else's rules. You are the pioneer of your own life. The door is open, and you don't need a glass in your hand to walk through it. Chapter 2: The 5 Pillars of Neurologic. In 1950, a scientist named Eugene Roberts sat in a quiet lab at the City of Hope Medical Center in California. He was looking at the brain, but not the way most people did. Back then, people thought the brain was like a series of electrical wires. If a wire was on, you felt something. If it was off, you didn't. But Roberts found something that didn't fit that simple picture. He discovered a specific amino acid called gamma-minobutyric acid, or GABA for short. At first, other scientists were confused. They didn't understand why the brain would spend so much energy making a chemical that seemed to do nothing. Most chemicals they knew about were like gas pedals. They made the brain go faster, work harder, or feel more excitement. GABA was different. It was the brain's natural brake pedal. It was the off switch that helped the brain calm down after a long day of thinking and reacting. Roberts realized that the brain wasn't just a bunch of wires. It was a chemical factory. This factory was constantly trying to stay in balance. If there was too much gas, the brain would release GABA to slow things down. Without this balance, a person would live in a state of constant panic or overexcitement. The discovery changed everything we knew about medicine. It showed that we aren't just our thoughts or our willpower, we are the managers of a very complex chemical system. The fake break and the chemical rebound alcohol is a master of disguise. When a woman pours a glass of wine at the end of a stressful day, she is looking for that GABA feeling. She wants the off switch. Because alcohol's chemical shape is very similar to GABA, it can slip into the brain and trick it. It plugs into the same spots that the brain's natural brakes use. For the first hour, it works. The shoulders drop. The racing thoughts about work or the kids' school projects start to fade. The factory thinks it has plenty of GABA, so it shuts down its own production lines. But the brain is much smarter than we give it credit for. It notices that the brakes are being pushed way too hard by the alcohol. To keep you from drifting into a coma, the brain fights back. It starts pumping out a different chemical called glutamate. If GABA is the brake, glutamate is the gas pedal. It's the chemical that makes you alert, awake, and focused. When the alcohol wears off in the middle of the night, the fake brakes disappear instantly. But the brain's gas pedal is still floored. This is why so many women find themselves wide awake in the dark. Elena Rodriguez knew this feeling then cold. Her mind was spinning through every mistake she had made in the last 10 years. She thought about a mean comment she made to a coworker in 2014. She thought about the fact that she forgot to buy more milk for Leo's cereal. She felt a deep sense of dread, a feeling that something terrible was about to happen. She told herself she was just a naturally anxious person. She believed her 3:00 a.m. panic attacks were proof that she was failing at life. She lay there, staring at the shadows on the ceiling, wishing she had just one more glass of wine to calm her nerves so she could get back to sleep. Elena reached for her phone, the blue light stinging her eyes. She typed a question into a search bar: why do I wake up at 3 a.m. after drinking? She spent the next hour reading about Eugene Roberts, GABA, and the glutamate rebound. For the first time in years, Elena felt a tiny spark of hope. She wasn't a broken person. She wasn't a bad mom or a weak woman. Her brain was simply a factory trying to fix a chemical imbalance. The anxiety wasn't her true self, It was just the gas pedal stuck to the floor. The 5 pillars of neurological rewiring. To stop the cycle of panic and anxiety, you have to stop trying to force the brain to be quiet with a bottle. Instead, you have to help the factory rebuild its own natural systems. This is where the 5 pillars of neurological rewiring come in. This framework isn't about quitting something, it's about building a brain that functions the way it was meant to. 1. Neuronutrition. Feeding the factory, the brain cannot make GABA or glutamate out of thin air. It needs raw materials. When a woman drinks regularly, alcohol acts like a thief. It washes away B vitamins, magnesium, and zinc. These are the very tools the brain needs to stay calm. A brain that is hungry is a brain that is noisy. If you don't have enough magnesium, your muscles stay tight and your thoughts stay fast. If you are low on B vitamins, your energy crashes, making you crave the quick sugar hit of alcohol. Rewiring starts in the kitchen. By flooding the body with the right minerals and proteins, you give the factory the parts it needs to start making its own breaks again. 2. Sleep hygiene. The cleanup crew. When we sleep, the brain does something amazing. It actually shrinks its cells slightly to let fluid wash through and clear out trash or toxins. This is called the glymphatic system. Alcohol stops this cleanup crew from doing its job. Even if you pass out, you aren't actually sleeping, you are sedated. To rewire the brain, you have to protect the first 4 hours of sleep. This means creating a buffer zone between your day and your bed. Without the fake break of wine, the brain needs light cues, like dimming the lamps, and temperature drops to know it's time to rest. 3. Dopamine fasting, resetting the joy meter. Dopamine is the chemical of more. It's what makes you feel a rush of excitement when you see a like on social media or when you take that first sip of a cold drink. Alcohol releases a massive flood of dopamine, way more than a sunset or a hug from a child. Over time, the brain gets tired of being shouted at by this massive dopamine flood. It turns down the volume by removing dopamine receptors. This is why, after a few years of heavy drinking, nothing else feels fun. A walk in the park feels boring. A movie feels dull. You feel like you need the drink just to feel normal. Rewiring requires a period of boredom where you let the brain grow those receptors back. You have to teach the joy meter how to work on a normal scale again. 4. Habit replacement. Building new roads. The brain loves efficiency. If you drink every day at 6:00 p.m. while making dinner, the brain builds a literal physical road, a neural pathway for that habit. As soon as you walk into the kitchen and hear the stove click, the brain starts shouting for the wine. You cannot simply delete a road in the brain. You have to build a new one next to it. This means changing the sensory experience of that hour. If you usually drink wine in a crystal glass, drink sparkling water in a heavy copper mug. If you usually drink while standing in the kitchen, take your reward, drink to the porch or the bathtub. You are carving a new path for the brain to follow until the old road grows over with weeds and disappears. 5. Stress management. Managing the pressure. If the factory is under too much pressure, it will always look for an emergency exit. Most women drink because they feel fractioned, pulled in a dozen different directions by work, family, and social expectations. Rewiring the brain means learning how to handle the 90-second rule. Science shows that a physical emotion, like a wave of anger or a sharp craving, only lasts about 90 seconds in the body. If you can breathe through those 90 seconds without feeding the feeling with a thought or a drink, the chemical wave passes. This is the ultimate skill of a sober woman, the ability to sit in the fire without getting burned. The lesson of Rat Park. In the 1970s, a researcher named Bruce Alexander noticed something strange about the way we studied addiction. Most scientists would put a rat in a small, empty cage with 2 water bottles. One bottle had plain water and the other had water laced with drugs. The rat would almost always choose the drugged water and eventually die. Alexander wondered, is it the drug or is it the cage? He built a new environment called Rat Park. It was 200 times bigger than a standard cage. It had delicious food, balls to play with, and most importantly, other rats to talk to and play with. In Rat Park, the rats tried both bottles of water, but they almost never used the drugged water. They had lives that were too interesting and connections that were too strong to want to be numbed out. This study tells us a vital truth about the female brain. Often, the craving for alcohol isn't just about chemistry, it's about the cage we live in. If a woman is isolated, bored, or overwhelmed, her brain will scream for an escape. Rewiring isn't just about changing what's inside your head, it's about changing the world you live in. Elena realized she had been living in a very fancy cage. Her house was beautiful.